Minister, could you introduce yourself and your title?
My name is Mandy Gull-Masty. I'm the Member of Parliament for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik EU, and I'm also the Minister of Indigenous Services Canada.
Very big portfolio, and we're going to be diving into that. There's a lot happening in the world right now. What is your political hot take in this moment?
That there's a lot going on in the world right now because Minister of Indigenous Services really has the focus of serving community, First Nations, Inuit, Métis. Our primary focus is offering that service, offering operations in community here in Canada. While we see in the global context a lot is happening, it does have an impact here in Canada, and it also has an impact in community. Sometimes when you are from a community that is very far from Ottawa or even very far from a city center, you may feel like it doesn't have an impact on you, but definitely what is happening in a global context has an impact in community. Biggest example is everything that's happening in the Middle East, everything connected to fuel. When you are from a remote community and you're driving a couple of 100 kilometers to go to the grocery store and the cost of fuel increases, that's really an increase in your cost of daily living. So that connection of what's happening globally does have an impact within our ministry. It is not one where we go and speak internationally in those spaces, but we do represent and ensure that community is able to ensure that they are getting service delivery even when things are complicated.
Very well said. And I think that's also a very important point to look to, because I think it gets lost in the media of, yes, okay, we're just driving to work, but when you are looking in those more secluded rural areas, it's a huge impact, even in Atlantic Canada, and the fact that a lot of their heating is also based on oil furnaces. The reason I'm here today is I just want to talk more about your political journey. What inspired you to get in politics? So you started off in band council and really broke a lot of barriers there, but if you can walk us through a little bit of your career journey.
I came into politics because I was in a family that worked in service to the community. I've told this story a few times in public spaces, but initially my dream was to follow in my mother's footsteps. My late mom was a secretary who worked at the band office, and I spent a lot of time after school going to her office. Probably should have been playing outside, but going to go visit her at work and really seeing how she helped community members. How when elders came in, she spoke to them, or what she was doing to make sure that whatever it is that they were asking for support or asking information on, she was the one that was helping them go through those steps. I also had a grandfather who was very vocal on ensuring defense of his trap line, of really being the representative of the decisions that were taken in that territory. So it framed to me the importance of being a voice in decision making. It is also one of the things that really drove me when I started to choose a career path, linking how can I help my community? How can I support members of my community? How can I be involved in the decision making? Honestly, had never anticipated going into politics. All of my experience, my studies were in political science, working in community, more on the administrative side. But then it reached a point in my career where people, I think, developed a lot of trust in the things that I was doing and pushed me into that political space. So I'm very thankful that they encouraged me to do more with what I had the capacity to do.
Do you think if you didn't have that encouragement, you maybe wouldn't be in the seat you are today?
I don't know. Maybe I would have been so annoyed by a decision that I saw that I thought, you know what, I'm going to challenge that. Maybe I would have eventually got there. Politics is, you either fall into it or it calls to you, but there's something within you where you're like, hey, I can help in getting that decision made.
Did you have like a policy bone to pick that also, in addition to that encouragement and being in that atmosphere and space of your family and community and seeing the representatives in your own family push you further to come into politics, do you think?
I would say that because everything about what shaped my early career path, from the time that I answered the phone as a school secretary aide when I was in grade 3, was really about communications, communicating with people, giving people information. So that's what policy is, about going to get that information to make a decision. And policy touches everybody's life. There's not a single person in Canada whose life is not touched by policy, but it is incrementally higher in community. When decisions are made for Indigenous people by external government, be it municipal, provincial, federal, they all have a relationship with community. When those decisions are made, and they're not always inclusive of Indigenous peoples, there's a gap there. And we have to do everything that we can to close that gap. That's why it's really important that people get involved politically. If you do not feel government represents you, there will be a day in your life where you wake up and you realize that something in government affects you. You need to be the person that advocates for that change or supports what you think is needed.
I love that. And you're a trailblazer and first of many, one of them being the first woman to serve as Grand Chief of the Grand Council of the Crees. Why did you think it took that long for a woman to hold that position?
That's a really tough question. If you want to be a trailblazer, if you want to break a glass ceiling, you get a lot of accolades that you did it. But on the pathway there, in the process of blazing that trail, it can be really tough. It can be really lonely. It can be a place where you feel a lot of pressure from other people. So you either have to be incredibly stubborn or incredibly motivated to
Where
take
did
on
you
that
sit
challenge.
on that scale?
Some days 50-50. Some days I was in one realm more than the other.
Fair. And, what would you say got you through some of maybe those tough times of being that lone person and getting yourself through it? Like, it sounds like you do have a great support system, but that only takes you so far.
I'm going to start first by saying people look at politicians or look at political decision and even look at government and think, oh, I know the right answer. Most of the time, there's a lot of information that people don't have access to. So you're making a decision on a small set of information. When you become a politician and you have access to information and you have many perspectives that you have to respond to, it can be really stressing. It can require a lot of reflection on what your principles are. It can impact you in your mental health. I think for me, the biggest challenge that I encountered throughout my career is really the impact that it has on your family. People don't think, if I write this on social media, how will they receive it? I receive it, but I also have kids. I have a husband. I have friends. I have family. They read these things about me and it bothers them too. So also trying to support them when they see these things, that takes a toll on your mental health too. I am very blessed that I have an incredibly amazing and supportive husband. He has really been my foundation for everything that I've done. He has challenged me when I have not been realistic with something. Mm-hmm. He has pushed back on me when I have done something that is this the pathway forward. He's pushed back in terms of, well, ask yourself, are you willing to do A to get to B? And will B help C? He's a great strategic advisor, I guess I'll say. And all of my family is in service with me. All of my kids are in service with me. It is really a family affair at my house. But we are also a family that is very connected to our community and our traditional territories. If I didn't have the opportunity to go to camp and just decompress and get away from everything, in life and just zone out, I don't think I'd get to have those moments of like peaceful reflection that you need. You need to unplug sometimes. And then, of course, I have the opportunity to be a culture carrier. I spend a lot of time doing beadwork. I spend a lot of time sewing when I have the time. Mm-hmm. Now, not so much, but, it's really something that offered me the peace and meditation that you need when you're trying to work through something. That's really, really important.
That's beautiful. And I love the tactileness of it, too. I think it's important to be grounded. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you, because community is a huge theme when we are talking about, especially in political spaces, but what does community mean to you personally?
Personally, community means everybody and anybody who helps to support me. And it means having a connection to my traditional territory. It means being able to go to my camp, being able to practice traditional activities. It means when I need that support, I have people to go to, be it family, be it friends. It can be many things. There's no one definition of community. I can find community in going home to my own home community. I can find community in going to my nation and speaking to members from my nation. I can find community in a group of artists who share the same skill as me. It can be many things. It's not just one.
Mm-hmm. And last year, this time, you decided to step into federal politics. What made you decide that?
This has probably been the most interesting decision that I've taken. I actually was in a place where I was really questioning if I wanted to continue politically. I had been doing it for a long time. I felt like I wanted to, challenge myself in doing something new. I actually was really unhappy with the representation in my writing. I informed somebody that, I have a lot of respect for federally. I'm not pleased with this. This is not, representative of who my nation is in my writing. And they came back with, you know what? You could be the person who could do that for them. And I thought that was absurd. Something just told me, you know what, try. There were so many people that I had asked, hey, what do you think of this? And the feedback was, yeah, you probably could. You should try that. You should try that. I had said no. I think some people know that I had tried, but there was so much going on. There was a change in leadership. Elections were happening sooner than I had thought. I was a Grand Chief. I couldn't walk away from my mandate. But when I went to my council committee and it was unanimous, every single community wanted me to run for the riding, I thought, okay, that's an indicator. You follow the signs and you go on the path that you're sent on.
And what does it mean for you that someone went out of their way and ticked their name to say, I want you to be my voice in Ottawa? And again, yes, we're talking at the federal level, but even prior to that, when you were a representative at Band Council.
That's a really personal relationship for me. When I was in leadership in my community, I'm working for my community members who are also my cousins, my aunts, my relatives. When I was the Grand Chief of my nation, same thing. It's a very close personal relationship. I was the kind of leader that is very accessible. People messaged me on social media. I answered back. I continue to be that person. My staff find it funny that I do streaks with members of my constituency, but that's what it is about having that relationship with people and being that closely connected with them. Now in this space, I think I have the added challenge of who my riding is. My nation is part of my riding. There are 9 communities that are Cree First Nation. I also have 2 Algonquin communities, Anishinaabe communities in my riding who do not have the same governance structure, so the dynamic is different. I am fortunate that I have the opportunity to work with Nunavik in my riding, so I represent 40 Inuit villages as well, and a large part of my riding is Francophone. So the diversity of my riding, the size of my riding, literally 50% of Quebec is my riding, is a huge challenge as a minister because as an MP, you do a lot of work, but I also have one of the largest ministries within governments, working for every Indigenous community in Canada. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
How do you deal with that pressure?
The pressure can be very intense if you do not surround yourself with the right team. And I'm really happy. I'm really fortunate that we have built a really amazing team. I depend on having people that can be honest with me, that can give me good advice, that can be stable when things get rough. It's not always smooth seas when you're in politics. Being able to also understand the complexity of what it means to be an Indigenous person, especially when you're managing Indigenous files. And some of the people that I work with are also my former colleagues. They're people that I have friendships with. So it can be incredibly tough. Expectations can be high, but I really believe that politically your first principle should be honest and direct. What are you telling your clients? What are you telling your partners? What are you telling community when you work with them? Tell them what you are able to do with them and how you need them to help you achieve the mandate. That's the biggest part of the job, is being sure that your success is their success and you have to work together to get to it.
And with this portfolio, in addition to the many firsts you've done, you're the first Indigenous person to hold it. It's 2026. Why do you think it took this long for an Indigenous person to be in this portfolio?
Previously, this portfolio had been offered to somebody else. And I completely respect the path that they took at that time. In that context, I think they made the decision that they wanted to ensure that they were reflecting what the direction would be. I came into this space with the realization that there has been a lot of time that has passed before we saw an Indigenous minister. And being a First Nations woman, if I want government to change and reflect my voice and reflect my reality and respect First Nations people's somebody has to get in there and be the voice to do it. You can't expect change to happen organically. It's been a long time. Somebody has to get in there and really push. So when I saw and received the direction from the PM that I would be having the opportunity to be a cabinet minister, and this was the position that was offered to me, I immediately accepted because I knew, okay, there's a barrier here that has to be broken. I'm so pleased to work with a prime minister who's bold enough to take that decision. I have a lot of trust in him. He's blazing a trail himself, so I'm pleased that he had enough confidence and trust in me to do that for him and with him.
And I know it's still very early in your tenure in this portfolio, but what are you hoping that your legacy would be?
I'm going to speak with what do I want people to remember me by, because I think that part of your legacy, if I'm able to leave this role and ensure that the next person who comes into it, who is probably also going to be Indigenous, I want that to be natural. I want people to immediately say, yeah, there needs to be continuity in that role. There's a high expectation on me, but there's also a high responsibility for me to showcase that it is imperative that First Nations are the voice for who they are. If the system is going to adapt to that reality and be cognizant that, hey, I have to stop and think about how I myself as a minister, irregardless of whether I am the ISK minister or any other ministry, have a role to play in the First Nations, Indigenous, and Inuit Métis space, that will be a true legacy because it means that there's a change in government. And that doesn't just mean government, that means in every party.
And on the note for every party, some big history has recently been playing out. We've had 4 floor crossings, most recently from the NDP, the MP for Nunavut. What is it like for you to be able to welcome another Indigenous person into your caucus?
Yeah, I was really happy to hear that Lori was joining our caucus for 2 reasons. Lori is very vocal. She's representative. She has a very close connection with her constituency. She's Inuit herself. We get to have that perspective and her voice at the table. I'm also really pleased, like I had said earlier, Inuit Nunavut is represented by the Liberal Party. Every part of territory where Inuit people inhabit is represented by the Liberal Party. I think that sends a really strong voice. We're 6 in Indigenous caucus. We represent First Nations, Métis, Inuit. We represent huge ridings across the country. We have a very diverse perspective. I think it just adds more to the importance. So I was very grateful she came. I had the opportunity to see her today, to thank her and welcome her. We have a lot of work to do as a government. Yeah. And I think the fact that you have seen so many people choose to come on board and work with us and be in that space just sends a strong signal on what a great leader we have. The Prime Minister is truly somebody who is in a space and time where he is making history through his leadership. And seeing that many people come, I think that's a signal for how true that is.
Yeah, and I really resonate with that because seeing this unfold, even though I've worked in politics, but seeing, Prime Minister Carney going across the world and broker these deals, essentially bring in Europe, this Indo-Pacific strategy, I feel so patriotic seeing it unfold because I think we're at this turning point. To quote his Davos speech, for in a point of rupture. Old world is gone. The old order is gone. So I think I'm hopeful, but it's hard because some days do feel not hopeful with everything that's happening in the world. But I want to end that off with, if you can finish the sentence for me. The future of Canada is?
The future of Canada is looking extremely bright, steady, solid. I think because we are making decisions that are positioning this country to be respected and open to a lot of groups that are going to help us to come out of this challenging time. The future of Canada is also bright because we are a country that is very young. We have a lot of youth in this space, and I always want to encourage anybody, if you have any kind of interest in what is happening in government, and it is the space where you get to come to work, make decisions that impact people's lives, represent people. Sometimes things get wild in here and it is fun and it is crazy. There's opportunity for communications. There's all kinds of pathway into government. I strongly encourage you to get involved, either running or even volunteering. It's at those levels that we get to shape the future of the country.
I think that's so great. I think Canadians are feeling it, the Elbows Up movement. And again, times are tough, but if we're getting together through this with community and with compassion, I think there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure. Any last words you kind of to share with the listeners about yourself or anything that's inspired you? I just want to throw the last word to you.
What has inspired me? I think I'll share some learning lessons. Lesson number one, while I always appreciate the opportunity that media has in telling stories, I often think that the media headlines don't always accurately portray what community wants to say about themselves. So I always appreciate when other forms of media come in and give space to that voice. That's critical. I'm hoping that there are more people that are going to step into those spaces and share that narrative. That's really, really important. The other thing that I've learned here is that parliamentary process and how government operates, extremely complex. There are rules for everything here. There's a rule for the rule. It makes for good government, but if you want to know more, I really encourage people to get involved politically and learn, because it is a great pathway. It's a career opportunity. You gain so much experience. You can learn about literally any file. It is an interesting space to work, especially if you are Indigenous. We need more representation. There are not that many Indigenous staffers in government. Most of them work in my office. But I'm really proud of that, but we always need more.
What would have meant for you to see someone like yourself in government, both on Band Council, but also in ministry? And I know you have children too. Like, what do you hope that they see you in this role?
When I was young, I remember when Kim Campbell became the prime minister for a period of time. And it was really the talk of the town that, for the first time we're seeing a woman in this space. And I thought that was great. But I remember watching the news and seeing somebody that didn't look like me. And no disrespect, it just means didn't look like me. And there are hundreds of thousands of girls and young boys across the country that are looking for role models. I'm so pleased that they now get to turn on the TV and see people like Buckley Boulanger and Jaime Baptiste, who ran for PM, myself and my other colleagues. They get to see somebody that looks like them when they turn on the TV. That's really, really important. We are the first in these spaces to be representation, because it means that other people are going to fill those roles naturally and, go into even higher levels, I think.
I love that. And I'm also so excited that we're seeing even more Indigenous stories in media. Like North of North is my favorite show, Reservation Dogs. I'm following a lot of rap artists that I didn't know about, and getting to learn and get a little bit of a peek inside of the culture. We're seeing different faces on TV. So I'm really excited that you were able to share that and be able to be part of this little space that I'm creating. So thank you very much for sharing your story and sharing your time, most importantly, because you're a minister and you're very busy. So thank you, Minister. I really appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you. I think that it's great to share this perspective. I agree with you. There are many talented Indigenous people out there. I'm going to say that I'm always impressed with what I see the youth doing. They are really in an era where they have access to so much information, so much technology, that I feel they are really pushing into new spaces, everything around media, everything around storytelling, cultural representation. That's really important for me. I'm proud. I have many artists in my writing that have come forward. Shout out to CB, who was nominated for a Juno for my writing. Yay. I'm really proud of her.
That's amazing. I'll be sure to tune in. I'm so glad to see that. So much to celebrate, I think, too.